So, as economic fears grow and Americans worry about their financial future, there was a fundraiser in front of the White House yesterday for the richest man in the world. And even Peter Doocy from Fox News chimed in about this infomercial for Tesla. Take a look.
I know he'd give me a discount, but honestly, I don't want to ask for one. You know, I'm president, so I want to pay full price.
And what is your message, President Trump? Buying a new car while there are some folks who will see this clip at home and they are struggling with their retirement accounts down at the moment, uncertainty about work ahead.
Well, I think they're going to do great. Wow.
Again, this other side.
That's beautiful. This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer. When somebody's a great patriot, they shouldn't be hurt. He's a great patriot.
But he has to try.
Yeah. And you know, all I could think of when I saw this were these TV commercials from when I was living in California. Take a look.
Here's Cal Worthington and his dog Spot.
If you're living short of cash, go see Cal. Doubles over in a flash, go see Cal.
If other dealers you have cussed, here's a dealer you can trust. All you have to do is just go see Cal.
You know, everybody in town is advertising new 88 model cars and trucks. We're selling 89s, brand new 89s at the very same prices.
Why does Cal have goats?
It was always Cal Worthington and his dog Spot. And then this music would start. And we sort of wrote some. So if it says, if you want to buy a Tesla, call Elon. You can buy one sitting on the White House lawn. The economy may crash, but it's Elon who needs cash. If you want to buy a Tesla, call Elon. Yeah. Thank you. Now, but the question is, why would he even think that voters would want to see him go to bat when the economy is being tanked by him?
I have an answer for that.
I would love to hear it.
And I love your take on it because that was a commercial. Since Elon Musk became the shadow president of this country, Tesla stock has tumbled nearly 48%. It has 48%. It's wiped out more than $700 billion in Tesla's market value.
Wow.
And because of that commercial that we just saw, Tesla stock was rising early this morning. It rallied about 7.2% Wednesday morning stock market trading. On Tuesday, shares bounced back about 3.8% after crashing 15.4% on Monday. So this very much so was a commercial to help Elon Musk. Elon Musk, in return, has seeks to put $100 million directly into Trump political operations. So what we are seeing is what President Biden warned us. I believe I believe it's unethical.
Yeah.
Not for the president necessarily, but for a staffer. You can't do that.
Why
as
not?
a staffer.
The Citizens
Why not
United,
for the
though?
president?
That's
Well, because the president has a lot of immunity now that's been given to the president by the Supreme Court.
But wait,
and generally the president can do things like that, believe it or not. But the main point here is $38 billion in government contracts have been awarded to Elon Musk since 2003. His entire empire is built on the American government, and that is why Elon Musk is part of our cabinet.
Well, you know, and the other thing is, Trump said in that, you know, Elon Musk shouldn't be penalized because he's a patriot. He's actually a businessman. And as Donald Trump said himself in 2023, money does talk. Anheuser-Busch now understands that. During the 2023 boycott of Bud Light over Dylan Mulvaney, who was just here, one of the largest and effective boycotts in American history, people can vote at the ballot box and they can also vote with their wallet. Right now, people feel divided and powerless. And as they're watching the stock market plummet, people are being encouraged to leave jobs when this is not the time to cash out on your retirement. They are feeling helpless, and this is where they can put their money, which is why the Tesla stock dropped, and those of all of those tech people that were with Donald Trump when he went into office, all of them have lost money. But the biggest part here is they're not going to feel that loss. For the first time since the 1960s, Trump won the poorest third of the electorate. And those are the people that are going to feel this the hardest, those very people that put him into office.
That's right. I
Well,
wonder.
and there was kind of a shocking CNN poll this morning that for the first time, more Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy than approve of it, because it was always with him, it's the economy, it's the economy. As a businessman, he knows what he's doing. And I don't like to be right. I would rather have been wrong on Trump and he'd be this wonderful, successful president in the second term.
but you knew
But one of the things I warned is he was not running to manage the economy the way he did in the first term. Larry Kudlow, Mike Pence, Steve Mnuchin, people who believed in free market economics are not there this time. It's very different advisors. And he's attacking his own trade agreement, the USMCA, the deal he negotiated between Mexico and Canada that brought down costs for American consumers with these tariffs. And I actually thought that most Americans didn't have money in the stock market, but I looked it up this morning. 61% of Americans do, because if you're a federal employee, if you're a teacher, your Roth IRA, your 401k, those are the people who are going to be losing money. Don't even look at it today. I'm hoping someone gets to him and tells him these tariffs do not work, because people are going to start
Can
feeling
I say
that.
something about the tariffs? Because I was looking, I was doom scrolling, I admit.
Don't do that,
I know.
Sonny.
I was doom scrolling last night, and I saw a clip of Ronald Reagan talking about tariffs. You know, the great Ronald Reagan that everybody, Republicans love to tout as the great finance guy. Take a look at this clip.
At first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs.
Yeah, listen.
Ronald Reagan said that.
Listen, he also said we need to have folks coming in from other countries.
Yes, he did.
And helping us do what we need to do in America. Listen, you know, if he cared about the economy, he would be doing these Tesla commercials for the Social Security folks. They would be doing it for the people who work for the government. He would be helping us build the economy. That's not what this is about. This is about something totally different
About the
and alien.
privatization of government.
You know, and very alien to me, because I don't understand how you can come in and say we need to trim all this fat and not do the work to figure out where the fat is. Yeah. I don't understand how you do that. But you know what?
I would have preferred, instead of buying a Tesla, he would have bought a rocket from Elon. And
Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.